Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm bringing you a story about professional boundaries, the glorious sweetness of petty revenge, and how my expertise as a physical therapist ended up providing the perfect legal maneuver to take down my fiancé's most obnoxious and petty boss. This is the ultimate tale of how I weaponized his own toxic workplace policy against him, and honestly, the satisfaction was better than any deep tissue massage I've ever given. So let me set the scene. My name is Chloe and I run a physical therapy clinic. My fiancé, Liam, is a corporate lawyer at a high-pressure firm downtown. For months, I'd heard the horror stories from Liam about the office politics, the constant backstabbing, and specifically about one particular partner, a man I will call Gary. To say Gary was disliked would be an understatement. Liam and the other associates and partners tolerated him because he brought in high revenue, but every story about him involved some form of condescension or outright arrogance. He was the kind of person who constantly needed to remind you of his status, but underneath all that bravado, Liam said, he was strangely desperate for approval. A few months ago, Liam and I hosted our engagement party. Naturally, a lot of Liam's colleagues were there. It was a relaxed atmosphere, and I spent a lot of time chatting with them. As a casual business move, I mentioned that since I run my own clinic, I'd be happy to give anyone who worked with Liam a special discount if they needed physical therapy. It was a small perk, a way to support my fiancé's coworkers. The offer worked like a charm. Over the next few weeks, 4 of Liam's colleagues, all lovely, hard-working people, became regulars at my clinic. It was a great arrangement. And then Gary booked in. I was instantly on alert. Liam had warned me, "Be careful, Chloe. He's going to try to talk down to you about your business." When Gary arrived for his first appointment, he immediately confirmed every single negative thing I had ever heard. He was condescending about the clinic space, arrogant about his body's superior structure, and spent an hour dropping legal jargon into conversations where the correct response was simply yes or no. He treated the session less like a medical appointment and more like an audition, trying to demonstrate his intelligence and success while simultaneously fishing for compliments on his posture. Despite all of this, I remained pleasant and professional. I gave him excellent care because that's my job, but I made sure our conversation stayed strictly within the realm of rotator cuff issues. When the session was over and we were settling the bill, Gary handed me his card, then paused. "So, the discount Liam mentioned at the party," he said with a smug, expectant look, as if he deserved the entire session for free. I smiled sweetly and professionally, while also delivering a perfectly executed smirk. "Ah, yes. The discount," I said. "Well, that's for employees of the firm. You know, the people who actually have to tolerate you every day. I'm happy to extend them a break. For partners, the full rate applies." Gary's face fell just slightly. That desperation for approval, the thing Liam had mentioned, flashed across his features. He paid the full rate, of course, because he wasn't going to argue over $150, but the small sting of being denied the perk, the subtle reminder that he wasn't part of the in crowd, was clearly felt. It was a tiny, delicious victory, and it solidified my status as a protector of Liam's sanity. He kept coming back, though. Arrogant people, especially those desperate for approval, often crave the expertise they can't buy, and unfortunately, I am the best PT in the area. Over the next few appointments, our conversations were always surface level until one visit about 3 weeks ago when Gary unwittingly handed me the exact blueprint for his downfall. He came in on a Thursday, and the conversation turned to how my day was going. I mentioned that one of my main therapists, Sarah, had called in sick unexpectedly, so I was pulling double duty, seeing her clients as well as my own. It was a busy, stressful day. Gary paused, leaning back in the chair with a knowing, superior look. "That must be annoying," he said. "Does she need a medical certificate? You should really enforce that. You need to crack down on people slacking off." I shook my head, already feeling the annoyance rise. "No, Gary. She doesn't need a certificate. And honestly, I think that's a stupid policy. I'd much rather someone stay home and not infect the entire clinic, me, the staff, and the clients, than drag themselves in here with a cough just to get a piece of paper." He countered instantly, the typical lawyer-partner mentality taking over. He wasn't interested in health. He was interested in control. Well, I want to be more strict with that at the office. We need to prevent people from slacking off. It's about accountability. I just nodded, focusing on his quad muscle, but internally I was seething. The idea that a medical certificate, a minor inconvenience and a massive waste of a doctor's time, was the only thing preventing a highly paid lawyer from slacking off was utterly ridiculous. It was petty, toxic leadership at its worst, designed purely to make people feel small and disposable. I filed that conversation away as just another piece of evidence that Gary was an awful person. Little did I know that conversation was about to become the key to my petty revenge masterpiece. A few days after that chat, the inevitable happened. I ended up getting a rotten cold. It was the kind of cold that starts in your sinuses and ends in your chest, leaving you feeling entirely useless. And, unfortunately, I passed it on to Liam. Liam, bless his heart, doesn't usually get sick, but when he does, he gets sick. Cold hit him hard. He managed to work from home on Friday, coughing constantly through his video calls, but by the weekend, he had deteriorated. The worst part was the lightheadedness and the severe vertigo. He could barely stand up straight without feeling dizzy. He spent all day Sunday in bed, miserable. Monday morning rolled around and Liam was in no shape to work, even remotely. He called in sick for the day. About an hour later, the predictable email came through, not from an HR rep, but directly from Gary, the partner who wanted to be more strict. The email simply stated that given his absence, Liam would need to supply a medical certificate upon his return to the office. Liam just sighed, utterly defeated, reading the email aloud to me. "This is the first time they've ever enforced this," he groaned, rubbing his temples. "They know I'm sick, but Gary is just trying to flex, exactly like he said he would." I looked at Liam, pale and dizzy on the couch, and then I looked at my clinic schedule, which I had open on my laptop. It was 10 a.m. I was completely full, as usual. But I knew one thing. I had a 2 p.m. appointment with Gary that afternoon. And then the light bulb went off. A huge, glorious, petty, and perfectly timed light bulb. I looked back at Liam, and a mischievous, almost wicked grin spread across my face. Liam looked at me nervously. "What are you plotting?" he asked. "I am not plotting, my love," I said, leaning in. "I am simply going to fulfill Gary's wildest professional fantasy, the necessity of the medical certificate." I immediately picked up the phone. First, I called Liam's GP and explained the severity of his vertigo and lightheadedness. Because I'm a PT and recognized his symptoms required attention, I was able to secure an urgent appointment for him that afternoon. The time? 2 p.m. Next, I opened my clinic's email system and drafted a succinct, professional email to Gary. I wrote, "Dear Gary, I sincerely apologize, but I have to cancel your 2 p.m. appointment today. I have to drive Liam to his doctor's appointment this afternoon, as he's suffering from quite severe vertigo and lightheadedness due to the heavy cold he caught. As you know, he needs a medical certificate for the office, so it's a priority. I'll get back to you if I have any sudden availability, but I'm currently fully booked for the next 3 weeks. Best regards, Chloe." I hit send. And then I waited. The beauty of this move was multifaceted. First, it was entirely true. Liam needed to see the doctor due to the lightheadedness, and he needed the note. Second, I was using Gary's own ridiculous, petty policy as the reason for canceling his necessary physical therapy appointment. He was losing an hour of essential recovery time because his own policy required Liam to be at the exact same time slot. Third, as I told him I was fully booked for the next 3 weeks, I wasn't technically lying, I was full, but I knew exactly how desperate he was for my specialized treatment, and I knew how badly he wanted to be back on my schedule. This was not just a cancellation, it was a denial of service, perfectly justified by his own rules. The response was immediate. Not one, but 2 messages came in quickly. The first was a text message to Liam. "Tell Chloe the certificate isn't necessary. She doesn't need to drive you. It's fine." The second was an email directly to me, slightly more formal but dripping with forced calm. Chloe, please understand that given Liam's condition, the medical certificate is not essential. I would hate for him to miss his PT treatment due to a bureaucratic formality. Please reschedule me immediately. Liam looked at his phone, read Gary's text, and started laughing so hard he almost triggered another bout of dizziness. He's backtracking. He's panicking because he needs his PT more than he needs to enforce his petty rules. I leaned over and gave Liam a high five. Oh no, my love. We are not backtracking. Liam messaged Gary back, playing the perfect role of the dutiful employee who knows the policy. He wrote, I appreciate that, Gary. But unfortunately, I can't cancel my doctor's appointment now due to the late cancellation policy. It would be rude to the doctor and it's best I go. See you tomorrow. I, meanwhile, replied to Gary's email with a tone of sheer professional helplessness. I wrote, Gary, I completely understand your concern. However, I agree with Liam. It would be unprofessional to cancel his emergency appointment now, especially when his symptoms are quite severe. It's also important he gets that certificate for you as per your instruction. As for rescheduling you, I truly wish I could. I am currently running a 3-week waitlist for new and existing clients. I'll keep you posted if a spot opens up. Best regards, Chloe. The radio silence after that was golden. Gary was stuck. He had been so rigid, so condescending about his need for accountability and preventing slackers, that when the opportunity arose for him to enforce that policy on his own high-achieving employee, I used the consequence of that policy to inconvenience him directly and professionally. He had lost his cherished, discounted PT slot, and he had been denied an immediate return to the schedule, all because of the note he demanded. Over the next few weeks, the victory kept delivering. Liam recovered quickly, armed with his medical certificate, which he promptly handed to Gary with a polite, stiff nod. Gary, meanwhile, was completely off my schedule. I saw the other 4 colleagues, who would quietly thank me for the amazing service, often giving me knowing smiles. They had heard the story through the grapevine and loved it. I did finally reschedule Gary exactly 3 weeks and 1 day later, but every session now had a new dynamic. He was still arrogant, but there was a subtle, respectful shift. He knew I had the power to professionally deny him something he truly needed, and that power came directly from his own toxic rigidity. He learned that being a tyrannical boss might get you compliance, but it won't get you medical treatment when you need it most. The lesson here is simple and applies to everyone. Don't let people in power abuse the rules they create. When someone sets a rigid, petty, and unnecessary rule out of spite or arrogance, find a way to make the enforcement of that rule hurt them more than it hurts you. In the end, Gary's desperate need for control over sick days ironically led to him having to wait 3 long, painful weeks for his rotator cuff treatment. And honestly, watching Liam finally get some peace and seeing Gary stewing was the best reward. So, if you're dealing with a petty boss or a ridiculous corporate policy, look closely. There might be a golden opportunity for petty compliance hidden in the fine print, waiting for you to weaponize it. If you've ever managed to outsmart a toxic boss using their own rules, please drop your story in the comments below. I want to hear about your moments of glorious, perfectly justified petty revenge. And if you loved this tale of professional one-upmanship, please hit the like button and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me keep sharing these complex, real-life dilemmas. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you